Hey, welcome. Today we're going to talk about how anxiety becomes addiction, the cycle nobody talks about. Most people think addiction starts with curiosity, a few bad decisions, or hanging out with the wrong crowd. But for millions of us, addiction begins with just one thing: anxiety that becomes too heavy to carry alone. If you've ever wondered why anxiety leads so many people to drugs and alcohol, or why substances feel like the only escape, today's video will explain the truth behind the anxiety addiction cycle. This is something I lived through 4 years and barely survived. And once you understand this cycle, recovery finally makes sense. Nobody takes their first substance thinking, "This is going to ruin my life." Most people take their first substance thinking things like, "I just want to relax," or "I want to feel normal," or "I want the anxiety to stop." Maybe it's, "I want to fit in," or "I just want to stop overthinking everything." Anxiety creates a storm inside you, and substances feel like an umbrella in that storm. But what starts as a moment of relief quickly becomes a shortcut that your brain starts to depend on. Alcohol silences the internal noise, weed calms the panic, cocaine boosts your confidence, pills numb the fear, and the brain learns instantly. This is how we survive. It logs that experience as a successful survival strategy. And that's where the trap begins. When you use substances to calm your anxiety, your brain literally rewires itself. Here's what happens on a biological level. You have an anxiety spike, so you use a substance, you feel relief, and your brain releases reward chemicals like dopamine. The next time you have an anxiety spike, your brain demands that same relief. It knows what worked before. Over time, your tolerance grows, and eventually dependence forms. Your brain forgets how to regulate itself. It basically hands over the controls to the substance. This is not weakness. This is neurobiology. And once the brain adopts a substance as its primary coping tool, addiction has already begun, often before you even realize it. I know this from personal experience. I didn't use because I wanted to get high. I used because I wanted to feel safe. At 17, marijuana took the edge off the social fear that I had been hiding for my entire life. At 18, alcohol made the world feel softer, less threatening. Ecstasy made me feel connected to other people for the first time in my life. But behind all of it was one truth. I was terrified of life. I was terrified of social situations. I was terrified of my own thoughts. Drugs didn't create my addiction. Anxiety did. And when my panic disorder exploded at 23, I couldn't use anymore. But I also couldn't function sober. That is the hell of anxiety-driven addiction. Now, here's the part that almost no one understands. When you stop using, the anxiety comes back stronger than ever before. This isn't because you're doing something wrong. It's because your brain is rewiring itself, your nervous system is exposing old, stored fears, and you've lost your numbing mechanism. On top of that, withdrawal itself spikes adrenaline, and all your emotions come flooding back at once. This is why people relapse. It's not because they want to get high, but because they can't handle the rawness of life without a buffer. The sober world feels too loud, too bright, too intense. So how do you break the anxiety addiction cycle? It requires treating both the addiction and the anxiety that's fueling it. Here's what works. First, nervous system regulation. Things like long exhale breathing, cold exposure, grounding techniques, and body relaxation methods can retrain your body's panic response. Second, medication if needed. SRIS or SNRIS can help stabilize the baseline that your brain can't regulate on its own in the beginning. Third is therapy, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, trauma-informed therapy, and EMDR. These help you process the root causes of the fear. Fourth is structure. Routines give your body predictability, which is the opposite of anxiety. It helps your system feel safe. Fifth is expression. Writing, journaling, talking. Suppressed fear is fuel for addiction. You have to get it out. And finally, rebuilding your identity. You must become someone who doesn't need substances, not just someone who resists them. This means finding new passions, new connections, and a new sense of self. Listen, you never used because you were weak. You used because you were overwhelmed. Your addiction wasn't a moral failure. It was an attempt to cope with pain that nobody ever taught you how to handle, and now you have the chance to break that cycle. Subscribe for more daily recovery content, and don't forget to download your free workbook at freefromaddiction.net. Thanks for watching.